Senator Landrieu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this hearing has been exceptional and one of the best, and I really appreciate you putting the panel together. I want to associate myself with the remarks of Senator Sessions and Senator Cantwell as we move forward. But I did want to comment, Senator Menendez, our colleague, has slipped out of the room, but I did want to comment on one of his points. Since I am proudly one of the leaders of more domestic oil and gas production in the nation, I want to point out a couple of things and then get to two questions. One, I've never heard anyone in the United States Senate say that they thought we could drill our way to national security. What I have said and what I've heard others say is there's generally a lot more oil and gas domestically than we acknowledge, and we fail sometimes to realize the dynamic and exciting changes in the industry that are providing more supply. And I want one more time, I've done this 3 times, but I'm going to do it again for the record. This is what we thought was in the Gulf of Mexico in 1987. 5 billion barrels of oil. Is this only oil, Tom? Now it's gone up in 2006 to 30 billion. And meanwhile, we have been using and producing all of the oil between 5 billion and 30 billion barrels. We still have 30 billion. So the fact of the matter is, if you look for it, you might find it. Number 2, or you usually find it. And number 2, we can extract it with a much smaller environmental footprint than ever before. And I'm going to submit again for the record that the natural seepage of oil into the ocean is much greater than oil from spilled production. Number 2, for gas, and I want to get this straight on the record, drilling-related spills are less than 1% of spills in the ocean. Tankering of oil is a 4%. Runoffs from boats and jet skis is 20%. And natural seepage is 73%. So yes, I am an unabashed advocate for more domestic drilling of oil and gas, not because I think it solves any problem, but because I think the American people have a right to benefit from resources that they own, and I think Americans are tired and feel like it is really embarrassing and downright shameful to ask OPEC to produce more when we won't ourselves. So I'm going to continue to be a fierce advocate for more onshore and offshore natural production. This is the gas resources, which is a good picture to show what these gentlemen have said, Mr. Chairman, that the gas resources, it really has been a game changer in terms of outlying projections. And the great news is because we deregulated the natural gas pipelines, we've built 11,000 miles of pipelines pretty efficiently throughout this country, which is contrary to what we've been able to manage in electricity lines, which we're having a big fight over now. And we can not only find gas in more places, but move it more quickly. So there's not only a greater supply, a very clean supply, but it is almost in every corner of the country, which is not true of hydro. It's located, or it's not true of coal, or, well, maybe coal is a different exception. Not true of oil, maybe, not true of hydro, not true of other parts. But natural gas has some really wonderful qualities. So my question is, I think, Mr. McKay, to you, your comment about the distortions in Waxman-Markey are, I think, particularly telling, and we don't have to go over that. It's fairly obvious. But when you talked about the utilities being relatively insulated or the electricity sector being insulated, what about the transportation sector and refineries? Could you talk a bit about that and see maybe is there an alternative that you might suggest in the transportation sector?
So in the transportation sector, that sector is about, let's just say 40% of emissions, CO2 emissions in the country, and needs to, for products and their own emissions, and needs to buy the allowances under Waxman-Markey out of basically a 15% government auction pool. So it worries us about how the transportation sector is going to cope with that. Refineries within the transportation sector are very trade-exposed industries, and those refineries all around the country are exposed in the sense they've got to scramble for their emission credits under Waxman-Markey, and imported products don't from refineries overseas. So it's a trade-exposed industry that was left out of the trade-exposed industries in Waxman-Markey is the fundamental point.
And I know my time's expired, but it's a real problem, Mr. Chairman, in the current framework of Waxman-Markey, because if we aren't careful, what little refining capacity we have left in this country, we will potentially eliminate if we don't do this correctly. And then instead of importing unrefined products in and being reliant as we are on unrefined products, we're now going to become reliant on refined products, which is worse in some ways. So I just really caution us, and I know the chairman is sensitive to this, and my final point is I do believe that natural gas, while we cannot be over-reliant on any one source of energy, and we want to have a multiple of clean-burning fuels or clean-burning sources, I do believe that it is something that we potentially have overlooked, and I hope as we move forward we can be more sensitive to it. And I'm pleased to be leading that effort with Senator Chambliss on the new Natural Gas Caucus. Thank you. Yeah, just two questions. Maybe I think this has been gone over, but just to be clear, Mr. Newell, our objective is to clean the environment and to do it in a very cost-effective manner. Would you believe that natural gas meets those two goals, and could you comment about that?
Yes, I think it does under the wide variety of different scenarios we've looked at under greenhouse gas legislation. Natural gas continues to be a competitive part of the energy portfolio looking forward as far as we can see.
Okay, and let me ask Dow Chemical, and of course I'm in an interesting position, Mr. Chairman, as you know, because my state is one of the top producers of natural gas, but we also consume a great deal, and Dow is in Louisiana in a big way. So I'm extremely sensitive to this price issue as well. But let me ask you, describe just very briefly how you use natural gas in your process, and what Dow Chemical or other companies in your situation have done to diversify your own sources so you're not over-reliant, regardless of the price, of one source for your production.
Right. So we use natural gas as a feedstock. We make power from it, and from that we create get the chlorine chain and plastics. It's also the production of natural gas is how ethane comes out of the ground, and that becomes plastics and all the other things we make. So it's a big feedstock for us. What we've done, I mean, we've taken a number of different approaches. First, one of the things we haven't spoken much about in this room, but we've spent a lot of time on efficiency. We've saved 1,400 trillion BTUs since 1994 on efficiency. So certainly when we consider climate change and, supporting energy efficiency is one of the things that we would, think is appropriate. We've also established an alternative feedstock group. And so, for example, at present, we're looking at different ways to make plastics and chemicals from algae, coal, petroleum coke, sugarcane, and we're trying to bring what we do best, which is bring technology to the party as well. We've also looked at gasification in various stages. So that we have a kind of an efficiency and also a diversify the types of things we move. And we have built a broad portfolio. As you know, our crackers in Louisiana can use multiple fuels depending on what's most economic.
But, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to underestimate the importance of our manufacturing base, either being incentivized, not that they aren't already, but for us to be mindful that, I guess as Senator Cantwell said, the sweet spot is a wide variety of choices of clean fuels with competition in the marketplace so that it will eliminate, if we can price carbon appropriately, eliminate these price spikes, create lots of jobs, more predictability in the market. And we all have a responsibility to move in that direction. So I just wanted to say that I understand the dash to gas. We've lived through, the people of Louisiana and Texas, and to some degree Mississippi and Alabama along the Gulf Coast, these wild spikes in energy prices that, you know, when the price goes too high, we get criticized by everyone else. When it goes too low, we go bankrupt. So, you know, the people in the Gulf Coast, you know, have not had a very good comfort over the last 20, 25 years. We'd like to find a better place for all of us, both producers and our users. So I think that's important for manufacturers like yourself to be looking aggressively for other sources, so that if gas isn't more in demand, to be the bridge to the future, that you can perhaps use sugarcane, which we have a lot of, as you know. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've been very generous.
Well, thank you, and thank all the witnesses. It's been a useful hearing, useful testimony.